Hi, I'm Eric Garcia, and I have the pleasure to be with Dr. Garcia Chapman. Hi, Gary. Welcome.
Thank you, Eric. Good to be with you.
Great to be with you. You know, today, I can't think of a bigger topic around the country than what's going on in marriage today. So I'd like you to just share with us a little about your thoughts about marriage and maybe why you've even written this most recent book.
Well, the reality, Eric, is that people are getting married.
Yeah.
And many of them are getting divorced. But those who get divorced are remarrying. And then they divorce again, and they remarry. Marriage is not going out of style. It's just that people don't know how to make their dreams come true.
Yeah.
They don't get married wanting to be miserable. They get married hoping they're going to make each other happy for a lifetime. The reality is they're not prepared for it.
So they're not marrying the perfect person that they thought they married.
Yeah, and the reality is they never will. I don't care if they get married 6 times. The thing is, you know, we spend a lot of energy and time on the wedding. Mm-hmm. We spend very little time preparing for marriage. And that's why I wrote this book, Things I Wish I'd Known Before We Got Married.
Well, you know, what a great title, Things I Wish I'd Known. I think in my own marriage, I go, man, if I'd have just known that about Jennifer. Give us some sound bites, some golden nuggets that you think that people are going to really gravitate to as they read this book.
Well, one is I wish I had known that being in love is not an adequate foundation for marriage.
Oh, you're going to disappoint a lot of people on that one, Gary.
I hate to tell
Come
you,
on
but
now.
It's not. You know, and nobody told me that. Nobody told me that it was temporary. The average lifespan of the euphoria is 2 years.
So those chemicals drop after 24 months.
We all come down off the high. But nobody told me that.
Yeah.
And when I came down off the high, I realized that what my mother told me about my wife was true. But I didn't see it when I was in love. And what my friends said, you know, the thing is, people will tell us before we get married, have you considered? But we don't consider.
Okay, so point one is everything your mom says and your friends say about the future spouse, you journal.
Listen to it.
You write it down. You write it down.
And after 2 years, you'll say, oh, they told me that.
Wow.
So I think if couples understood that that's a temporary phenomena, because in our society with the movies and the songs, we're all led to believe that when you fall in love, it's forever. If it's the real thing, it's not forever. We come down off the high. And then we have to learn how to communicate love that will touch the heart and keep emotional love alive in the relationship.
Well, you know, you mentioned earlier that even if you divorce, you're remarrying, and even if you divorce on that second time, you normally remarry again. Tell me a little bit about that. Why is it happening, and what is happening?
I think what happens is we get married with this idea that it's going to be like this forever. We come down off the high, and then we realize this person's not perfect. We have differences. We both feel strongly about them. And since we had no plan for handling differences because we didn't think we had any, we end up arguing, trying to convince each other, you're wrong about that, or you shouldn't feel that way. And so we end up arguing. And after a series of arguments, you don't even like each other, let alone love each other. And so consequently, you think, well, man, I've lost it, you know, and all we ever do is argue. Who wants to spend a lifetime arguing?
Yeah, so off to the divorce attorney.
And
again.
Especially if you meet another person and you begin to get, you know, what I call the tingles for them.
Right.
Then you've got motivation to leave this one and go to this one.
Yeah, your chemicals start moving over to the other person.
Absolutely. But the same thing's going to happen there. Same thing will happen there.
Yeah.
So, you know, what I'm trying to do in this book is to say, look, if you want to have a good marriage, and most people do when they get married, and they would like for it to be a lifetime. I mean, research indicates 87% of the people who get married would like to have it for a lifetime.
That's incredible.
That's what they want, you know. It's what I wanted. And but they're not prepared for it. So one of the things I do in the book is help them learn how to solve differences without arguing.
Wow.
And as you well know, that involves listening. Listening to what they're saying, taking it seriously, giving them the freedom to think what they think, and finding out how deeply they feel about that.
So the gift of listening is a big part of what you try to coach people through in the book.
It's a big part of learning how to solve conflicts without the arguing. And the next part of that is that you have to accept what they believe. Affirm it. You don't have to agree with it, but you affirm it. Give them the freedom to believe that. And then say, all right, we see it very differently. How can we solve the problem?
Instead of saying, I see it differently, goodbye.
Yeah. Or I see it differently. You've got to agree
change.
with me. Yeah.
We got to change the other person.
So you spend your energy looking for a solution,
Right.
rather than spending your energy trying to convince them that they ought to see it the way you see it.
So a very positive approach versus a negative adversarial approach.
Yeah. And
Great.
if couples can learn how to do that before they get married,
Yeah.
and realize we're going to have conflicts, so let's get a process. If they've got the process in mind, then when they come, they know how to listen.
So
and
this
they know how to process
book
it.
could be an incredible tool for people that are doing premarital counseling or education.
Yeah. I really wrote the book for singles. Those that are engaged, or those that are thinking maybe we should get married, they're toying with that idea, or even singles who are just dating and wondering, what should I be asking? What should be happening in the dating process?
So you're even coaching them through some dating techniques.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, in the appendix, I have a whole section on how to develop a healthy dating relationship.
That's
How
great.
to cover the bases, how to get to know each other, which in my mind is the purpose of dating. Is
Right.
getting to know the other person intellectually and socially and in the whole spiritual dimension and values and all of those things. Use the time of dating to get to know the person.
Yeah. So there's a step before you get ready to say I do, and that is just getting to know the person.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that dating process can be a big part of that.
And sometimes if you explore each other in those areas, you realize, no, this should not lead to marriage.
Yeah.
We're friends. Let's just be friends. But we shouldn't get married. We're too different. We're in this area or that area. So I'm hoping that some dating couples will realize, no, we're not ready for marriage. Either we shouldn't marry each other, or this is not the right time. Let's continue. If we like each other, let's continue the process. Let's see where it leads. So I think the sooner we can get to singles, so they have in the back of the mind some of the things they should be looking for in a dating relationship and looking for in the person that they should marry, and some of the skills that they need to develop before they get married, we're going to find people finding their dreams come true.
So
that's what I want.
So things I wish I've known is valuable for the dating couple, or even the person thinking about dating, so they walk into dating properly, as well as the couple looking at some premarital education and counseling.
Absolutely. Any single adult.
Okay. Now the next thing is there's an exciting website, Gary, that's called Start Marriage Right, that this book is really part of, and it may even be the anchor in some ways to getting the website launched. Tell me a little bit about that. Sounds exciting.
Well, it's a website that's going to focus on resources of various kinds for couples that are seriously contemplating marriage.
Wow.
And this book, I think, will be a book that every couple should read before they get married. But here's a website that will give you additional material, additional resources in the area of money management, in the area of in-law relationships.
Oh my, that's a hot one.
In the area of sexual relationships. It's going to be a wealth of information from various people who work in this field and have worked in this field for a long time. I'm excited about the website.
Yeah. Well, I think so often we do get maybe latched onto one resource and we're going, well, that should solve all my problems. But when you think of remarriages, when you think of all the different definitions of what we're looking at families being today, there's just a lot of need, and that information comes from a lot of different places, not just one. Now, is there going to be some interaction, some interactive pieces to the website? I mean, can you tell us much more about that, or mainly the resource base?
Well, we're still in the process of developing, of course, but the idea is that there will be some interaction so that they have an opportunity to leave questions and get answers and that sort of thing. I'm hoping that's going to develop so that it will be an interactive place. And if not giving real live time answers, at least they can ask a question and they can go find an answer that has already been pre-prepared for that particular question.
So it will be for end users, as we call them, for every individual. And my guess is whether you're a counselor, a pastor at a church, or working in a community marriage initiative, this resource base will probably work for everybody then.
I'm hoping that counselors and pastors, anyone who counsels couples thinking about getting married, will go to the website, check it out, see what's available, and we're going to continue to add things as we move along. Then they will know, where they want to refer this couple to. If they're struggling, for example, it's a second marriage, they both got children.
Wow.
So, you're going to find some help on this website.
Yeah,
Here's where you go.
It's not all the Brady Bunch.
Right, absolutely.
It's not all the Brady
absolutely.
Bunch. Now, if you could speak to that counselor, that pastor, that community leader, and say, you know what, here is my message on why it's so valuable that these marriages start right. What would your message be to them?
I think I would say, look, all of us want couples to have good marriages. No pastor ever performs a wedding ceremony hoping that they'll get divorced.
Exactly.
And let's face it, pastors are busy. They've got a lot to do. They don't always have time to spend enough time with the couple working through these areas. And one of the things we hope to do is come alongside that pastor and say, here are some things you can point them to that they can do on their own. They can work through on their own. And then when they meet with you, you can see how they're doing in these areas. And so both the book, The Things I Wish I'd Known Before We Got Married, and the website, I think are going to be great tools for pastors and also for counselors, because many counselors are also doing preparation for marriage counseling, and pastors often refer people to those counselors. So we're going to come alongside them and try to help them as they help others.
So the new book, Things I Wish I'd Known, and the new website, Starting Marriage Right. What an exciting launching pad going through 2010 and into 2011.
Well, I'm super excited about it, Eric. I really, for many, many years, I've worked in the marriage field, over 35 years now, counseling with couples and then writing books for couples that are already married. This is really the first book I've addressed to couples before they get married.
Wow.
And whatever else counselors and pastors are doing, I think they'll find this book to point them to 12 basic things I wish I'd known before we got married. And I think pastors and counselors will identify with those and say, yeah, I wish I'd known those also.
That is awesome. Well, you've heard it right here from Dr. Garcia Chapman. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.